Hello friends, it's Zach here. I had a bit of controversy on my latest video on secrets of longevity. It was a general video on female sexual health, and the controversy was around the image I chose to use for the thumbnail of the video, and also the writing I attached to it. So I took an image of Mother Teresa and added a caption, just in some wording, that some people thought was disrespectful. Now, I'll just say that in my view, I did this just out of, I guess, from my standpoint, I knew it would be controversial, first of all, but I was doing it from a place where, in my perception, she's not someone that is as noble as everyone thinks she is. And I don't see her as someone that actually did much good for the world, despite her fame. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video before you go off on me. But she, or rather the view is that I'm disrespecting her by doing this. Now, personally, I think calling it disrespectful just to satirize someone is a quality that we need to abandon in our society. It's a less extreme form of what the guy did in the Danish cartoonist, if you can remember the story from a few years ago, who made a cartoon about the Prophet Muhammad, and he was getting death threats for that. I believe, I can't remember what the cartoon was even about. I did look at it at one point. But it really highlights this whole vehemence that people of a specific religion have if you make fun of anything that's related to it. So if I were to take an image of Jesus and make fun of it, it really throws these people for a tranny, as you could say. Or yeah, the whole reverence they have for these figures, which has its benefits. They look up to these people. They can take the good qualities that they taught and lived and implement them in their own lives. But that doesn't mean you should put these people on a pedestal and take it at face value that if anyone insults them, you're going to be aggressive towards them. That is ignorant and primal-minded. I'm not using primal in a way that's complimentary, as if we're talking about the primal diet, but in a regressive part of the mind, a more reptilian, sort of egotistical, lashing out type of thinking that is not constructive, and it just makes you look foolish. So, getting to the whole topic of Mother Teresa, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video, is that because my perception is of her as not being that worthy of even being revered, that was my choice for using it. But also I don't feel like I'm disrespecting her because, again, this was satire. I wasn't flat out calling her rude words. I was simply playing on the fact that she believed and taught something that I think is profoundly unhealthy and shouldn't be something that's admirable. You know, chastity and all these qualities that are known to be connected with bad health are not things that should be promoted in the world, in my opinion. It's fine if people want to do that and call it religion, but there's going to be people out there in secular society who are going to call them on their bullshit. So, if you want to look into the whole Mother Teresa issue further, what I was giving people was a link to the documentary Hell's Angel. So look at Mother Teresa, and I'm going to stick a link to it right here. It's a 3-part series. It's very short. It's under 30 minutes, just over 20 minutes somewhere. And it was done by Christopher Hitchens, and he also wrote a book after that, which if you really want to get into that, you could always read. I haven't read it, but I've read about it online. Sounds like a great book. It's called The Missionary Position. And of course, that's definitely a satirical title meant to get attention. But yeah, it really plays into that idea that these people's view, it's basically making fun of their view. And again, that's satire. That's tongue-in-cheek. And yes, if you can get insulted, like I've had maybe people do that to me in some way, offhandedly. If it's done in a good way, and it actually eventually causes something in me to shift, and that has happened, then I can't latch onto it with my ego and be insulted or offended by it. But if it's done in a poor way, I'm going to see that, and I can then defend in that way. But when you talk about the idea of the missionary position for that book title, for instance, this idea of being so square and boxed in, if she was even sexually active, which apparently she wasn't because she was a nun, that's the kind of sexual attitude that these people have about that, is that's, very standard, very monotonous, very boring. And that spills over into things like views on Planned Parenthood. Like, Mother Teresa was profoundly against abortion, to the point where she said many ridiculous things publicly. And I'll pull those up here, but I'll continue to speak. Now, whether or not you're pro or against abortion is beside the point. It was the extreme nature of what she said about abortion. I'll just read these quotes here. So, any country that accepts abortion is the poorest of the poor. That's just opinion. That's really, what's to that? What's she trying to say? It's her just like looking down her nose like, I don't believe that it's a good thing, so you guys are poor. It's like, she's not even backing it up with anything. I know that's not her place to be someone that comes from rigorous logic and stuff, but it just sounds like a silly argument. This other one's a little more extreme. Any country that accepts abortion is not teaching its people to love, but to use violence to get what they want. That is why the greatest destroyer of love and peace is abortion. Okay. Now that kind of shows you a little more what's going on here. The greatest destroyer of love and peace. So, wars that are fought over land and resources don't destroy more people, don't kill more people. The wars enacted by religions over differing beliefs aren't worse. Or poverty, due to not being able to support, or people in poverty not being able to support their families, which leads to higher rates of crime, isn't more dangerous and harmful to societies. And by the way, that last one can be remedied in part by abortion. Like when someone gets pregnant and they're not ready to have the kid, they're going to either raise the kids in an environment that's not optimal and they can be more prone to crime, or they're going to not have enough money, etc., and they can turn to crime. And her sort of solution to this is like, oh, well, we can take in the poor, we can have them in our orphanages. It's like, right, because kids in orphanages always grow up to be perfect, but apparently they do in hers because she just shoves religion down their throats. It's that martyrdom or the missionary ideals. It's sorry, but this is not well thought out in terms of an actual way for things to work out. It's not realistic. Now, before I go further, I just want to say that for the last 50 years of Mother Teresa's life, she actually lost faith in God. So basically, her entire span, she had like a number of revelations that set her on the path to do what she did, and was having sort of these extremely profound religious experiences. And when she embarked upon her missionary work, opening the orphanages, the death houses, and by the way, I'm just going to leave these up here, the whole video, because and I'm going to put all 3 parts there, because people who were sort of responding to me, I could see very clearly that they still hadn't watched the documentary. And that's something that ticks me off more than anything, when I say something and put up a reference to what I'm saying, and people keep saying the same thing, yet they haven't watched the documentary yet, or they haven't read that article yet that I was using to back up my point. It's like, you're not even in this to debate or discuss this issue. You're just trying to push your narrow, limited belief based on what the sheep in the media have told you, and all the sheep around you tell you about this person. Just because she's portrayed as someone noble and chaste and charitable, you falsely believe it. So again, watch that documentary to get more of an idea of it. And also check out in the links below, I'm going to link to probably just 2 articles, maybe more. One is the article on Time Magazine, from Time Magazine. I mean, there's a lot of news things that were talking about it, about these letters that were released from I believe different Catholic institutions, maybe the Vatican itself released it, but it's about her lack of faith. And they tried to twist it around as if, she had such strong faith that even during this whole 50 years of her not almost like questioning her faith in God or Jesus, she managed to hold on and keep doing her noble work. No, you guys kept her in, referring to the church, and used her as a front woman for brandishing an image that looks good to you when your overall perception by the world is increasingly one of greed. People see how greedy the Catholic Church is. Yet, Mother Teresa is this front that makes them look noble and charitable, because that's what she was doing, or attempting to do. But if you were to watch the documentaries here, you'd also see there's a different side to that. It wasn't so great what she was doing. She had the means to actually help people, as opposed to just giving them a place to die without proper painkillers, without proper attention. Many things could be treated that these people were dying from and continue to die from in her death houses. But they don't choose to do that. A 15-year-old kid, as talked about in the documentary, could have been saved with a very simple procedure at the local hospital. Nope, he wasn't allowed to go and be treated. They were washing needles under cold water and reusing them. Oh yeah, the people will die. Let's just use the same needles over again. They're about to die. We don't need to be concerned about other diseases spreading. And then the other thing was the not allowing family to visit while the people die. Come on. Let's not continue with the false perception of this. At this point, if you were to look into it as much as I have, horrible woman. Then, as the documentary describes, all her affiliations with profound scam artists and horrible dictators is appalling. She was connected with one of the biggest financial scam artists that is currently in jail for what they did in the U.S. So a lot of that guy's money was going to help the poor, or have a perception of like he's helping the poor through her charitable work. And then she was also connected with the dictator in Haiti, and she was in Guatemala during the killings that were happening there, the genocide. Well, that's the funny thing. Some idiot on YouTube was calling me having genocidal views of the world. Yet he obviously didn't even watch the fucking documentary I don't even know where he got that from. That was the most bizarre comment. He's blocked because of his retarded, illogical, straight up, rude as well comments towards me. And but yeah, the genocidal stuff is just appalling and disgusting that she was there in the midst of all that, and she turned a blind eye and was like, oh yeah, everything's good here. We're going to support this cause of the leader that was taking over in Guatemala at the time, or I forget if he was taking over or maintaining power or whatever. So yeah, that sums up the appalling work of Mother Teresa. Someone could say, oh, well, her intent was good. Yeah, so was Hitler's when he was exterminating Jews for the good of the German people, because he falsely believed that they were the cause of bad things that were happening all across the world, not just in Germany. That's an extreme comparison. I'm not saying she was as bad as Hitler. Of course, she wasn't literally exterminating people, but the Catholic Church does. The Catholic Church is behind a lot of that bullshit. So, be extremely careful about idolizing and revering these old world religion zealots that are out there to push a cause that is extremely fundamentalist. Excuse me. Her comments on abortion, her anti, what do you call it? I've forgotten the word for just the basic use of condoms. You know, it's along the same lines as what the popes have said about like using condoms in Africa or giving them out. It's like that's going to prevent AIDS to not use condoms, or using condoms is going to spread more AIDS because it's a sin. Come on. We got to talk about this openly, and this whole like bullshit people say about, oh, you got to respect them because they're spiritual. They're not on a higher plane to being criticized. These people need to be exposed. We can't just go along with this whole bullshit paradigm of revering them just because they have a title, just because they have been chosen to be the one that can speak to God, but other people can't. It's like, just watch the documentaries. Don't fall to this whole sheep mindset, and lighten up just because of this little thumbnail in that video. There's a lot of good content in that video, and of course I'm not going to take the thumbnail down. Okay. If I could go back and remake the video, I probably would use a different thumbnail, but since people make such a big deal of it, there's no way I'm changing it now. It's to be offended by something like that, you have to be so deluded and misunderstanding of what's really going on behind the scenes. So I do this as a way to encourage people to look into matters. I have nothing against religion. I have nothing against belief systems. What I do have a problem with is when things are pushed on other people from a stance that is not based in science or fact and is damaging to society at large, which is this anti-abortion. And again, further on the abortion issue, I'm going to link to another video where I'll link to here, and it's called "Where's the Controversy in Saving Lives?" And you know, this is just another thing amongst a much larger debate, which I might go into in another video. I'm personally not totally pro-abortion. Like, if it can be avoided, it should be avoided. It's not something that should just be used as a way of getting out of being pregnant, or rather, a way to not be careful with who you have sex with and stuff, just because you can get an abortion if you happen to get pregnant. But it's well known that when women have access to that, society prospers, because you have people that aren't having kids prematurely or unexpectedly, such as and not being able to become educated, being able to be in a spot where they can support their children when the time comes. So they make the choice to do it when they can, as opposed to just randomly too early. And that video also talks about some of the other ways it saves lives. So without further ado, I'm going to wrap this video up. Check those out, and I'll talk to you next time.